Hello. Today we are going to begin Bend 2 of our deep study of character unit. And in Bend 2, we are going to look at the setting and how it affects characters. So today's lesson is a read aloud, and we are looking at how characters are often shaped by the mood or the atmosphere of the setting. Setting, we usually think about where it takes place, when it takes place, but setting also includes mood or atmosphere, especially when we're looking at how the setting affects characters. So, mood is the feeling you get from reading the text, and you'll see mood developed through the setting and the atmosphere of the text or the story. And just about any word that can describe an emotion can describe the mood in a story. Today's read aloud is a continuation of Will's life, and this story is called The Fight. And in this story, he's in 8th grade. If you remember popularity, he was in 4th grade. So during this read aloud, think about the mood or the atmosphere. When the setting seems ordinary, like it's just a school, you have to think extra hard. Ask, what kind of school? Is it the kind of school where kids are good to each other, or a place where kids can be cruel or hurtful? When you ask those types of questions, you develop theories about how the mood or the atmosphere of this particular place shapes the characters. As we start reading, ponder what kind of place this is and consider other work the story wants us to be doing now, like thinking about character as we get to know this older Will. The Fight. It began with a basketball game. Mike Dichter and I went up for the same rebound, and I accidentally stuck my elbow in his chest. Then Mike stuck his elbow in my chest, pointed a finger at me, and told me to watch out. In those days, I had a reputation for toughness to maintain, so I told him that he better watch out. And on the next rebound, neither of us watched out, and both of us got elbows in the chest. Then we started shoving each other under the basket and pointing fingers and making threatening faces, which was fine with me because looking threatening was one of the things I did best. Before things could get out of hand, however, gym ended, and Mike and I glared at each other and went back to our respective homerooms. Reading this makes me think about the characters. It's 4 years later, and Will seems to still have issues with wanting to be cool. Now it's almost worse. He says he had a reputation for toughness. He wants to dominate, not just be accepted. Maybe hanging with the cool kids has gone to his head. Now let's reread that same part and think about the setting. Ask yourself, what kind of gym class is this? What's the mood? Is it light-hearted? Is it something else? It began with a basketball game. Mike Dichter and I went up for the same rebound, and I accidentally stuck my elbow in his chest. Then Mike stuck his elbow in my chest, pointed a finger at me, and told me to watch out. In those days, I had a reputation for toughness to maintain, so I told him that he better watch out. And on the next rebound, neither of us watched out, and both of us got elbows in the chest. Then we started shoving each other under the basket and pointing fingers and making threatening faces, which was fine with me because looking threatening was one of the things I did best. Before things could get out of hand, however, gym ended, and Mike and I glared at each other and went back to our respective homerooms. Some of the words that come to my mind when I think of that gym class, it's very competitive, it's kind of nasty, it seems pretty intimidating, and it makes me wonder if Will's whole school is always like this, or if gym class is especially nasty. And I also wonder what's the adult in the gym doing? Usually, when we study the setting, we consider the season or the time period or the city where it takes place. But the setting is more than that. It's also the mood or atmosphere of a place. The way a place shapes a person is often about the way it feels. Now, Will is in middle school, in 8th grade. Gym class has become threatening. Being with the cool kids is different now. So the setting, even though it's Will's school in both stories, has changed. As I continue to read this story, try to notice details of how this setting has changed. What kind of place is this? How might it be affecting Will? Things probably would have taken a peaceful turn if I hadn't walked home with Kevin Cox after school and told him that the next time Mike and I played basketball, I was really going to throw some elbows. And if he, Mike, didn't like it, I would fight him anytime, anywhere. I don't know why I said this. Perhaps I was thinking of the Mike I had known a year before. Perhaps I was thinking of the thin, gullible, good-natured Mike who had since grown 4 inches, gained 15 pounds, and become as humorless and menacing as a drill sergeant. Kevin looked at me doubtfully. "Do you really think you can take him?" he asked me. Since Kevin had always been one of my most loyal and servile followers, I was astonished by his doubt in my physical prowess. "I know I can take him," I said. "He's 3 inches taller than you," Kevin said. "So?" "He's really strong." "I'm really strong." Kevin shrugged. "Okay," he said, "but I think Mike could take you." Now it was my turn to shrug. It was also my turn to lay a condescending hand upon Kevin's shoulder and leave him to ponder his absurd and traitorous notions. The next day in school, everything proceeded as usual. I listened to the teachers, took notes, fell asleep, made a few uncalled for remarks, and gazed at Denise Young's legs. During lunch, I was sitting with a table full of friends, talking and listening in my usual superior way, when I heard Mike Dichter say, "Hey, buddy!" Somehow I knew that he meant me. Somehow I also knew that all kinds of jigs were up and that something momentous was going to happen. I turned to look at him. "I hear you want to fight me," he said. "That's right," I said. "I'll meet you after school." "I'll be there," I said. Then he walked away, and I discovered two interesting things about myself. The first was that the idea of fighting terrified me, and the second was that in moments of extreme fear, my body produced ice-cold sweat. Someone said something to me, and I smiled and nodded. Someone said something else to me, and I smiled and nodded at that too. Perhaps they were giving me advice. Perhaps they were telling me to stay low and lead with my left. I stood up without really knowing I was standing up and walked from the cafeteria to the playground. I had never felt so lonely or so frightened in my life. Somehow, I had taken a wrong turn and wound up in the wrong day, in the wrong body, with the wrong future. Somehow, in 3 hours, I was going to be in a real fight with real fists, and there was no way out of it. I'm thinking that this school is a place where it's important to be tough, and it's a place where what you show on the outside matters more than what you feel on the inside. Everyone seems to be acting, and Will fits right in. It's like he wants to fit into this place, and this is a tough place. As I read a bit more, see if this next part suggests new thinking about this place, or if it confirms that it is a tough place, and that it's making Will need to be tough, even if he may not feel that way. My biggest problem, I knew, was that I didn't hate Mike or even dislike him. I had no animal rage to ball my hands into fists and thrust them into action, no deep-seated envy or resentment to impel me toward him with the object of destruction. All I had was fear and pride, which is a pretty poor combination as far as fighting is concerned, because all pride could do was guarantee that I show up for the fight, and all fear could do was guarantee that I lose it. The rest of the day passed in a haze of anticipation and dread. I sat through my classes, a smiling, silent shell of my former self, and tried to look as casual and confident as possible. Now and then I would look up at the clock and realize that the fight was only 1 hour and 49 minutes away. 1 hour and 40 minutes. I tried to tell myself that it might only be a 1 or 2 punch fight, that maybe Mike would throw a punch and I would throw a punch, and we would both smile, throw our arms around each other, and become friends for life. But I knew that it would not be a 1 or 2 punch fight. No, it would be a fight to some extreme and horrifying limit, a fight to unconsciousness or hospitalization or reconstructive surgery. Will's words seem to confirm that this place is tough. He expects this fight to be serious. Will is going to have to be pretty tough to survive. Now, that's all I'm going to read from now. There is more to the story, which I'll read in a few days. But this is the beginning of our anchor chart. To investigate the influence of setting on characters, ask, what kind of place is this? Is it safe, not so safe? And consider the mood of the place. Is it kind of threatening? Is it dangerous? Is it welcoming? Is it an intimidating place? Is it a calm place? Is it a joyful place? What's it like? What's the mood? How does it make you feel? While you are reading your own book, what words can you think of to describe the atmosphere or mood of your settings, and how you think these places are affecting your characters? You might want to go back to parts of the story to reread parts where you think this type of thinking will work. Here's an example of a post-it jot. The mood of the school seems aggressive. Then we started shoving each other under the basket and pointing fingers and making threatening faces. That is the end of our read aloud. Have a great time reading. Spend some time doing that reading and thinking and some notebook work. And I will see you soon.